Hello. My name is Charlotte, and I had my first panic attack in January. I had taken a large amount of amphetamine, and that's how I got it, I think. Um, the first thing I noticed was that I couldn't breathe, so I thought, oh my god, I'm dying from an overdose here. I need to get help. So I called the ambulance and I rushed into the hospital, and they took, all these tests, but they didn't find anything wrong with me. So they just told me it was an anxiety, but I was so sure that they had ignored something. So I wouldn't leave the hospital because I was so sure that they had missed something. So I didn't believe the doctors. I didn't believe the results of the test, anything, because what I felt inside was so strong. I couldn't breathe. I felt dizzy. Felt like I was gonna throw up, and this rush of anxiety just floating in my entire body. It is, it's the worst thing I've ever experienced in my entire life, and I was so sure that I was dying. I was so convinced. So when the doctors told me that I just had an anxiety, I didn't really know what to say because I had never, first of all, I had never heard about a panic attack. I didn't know what that was because I grew up with a lot of anxiety. I grew up with selective mutism as a child, and as I became a teenager, I developed social anxiety, and as a young adult, I had panic attacks. So I've had anxiety my entire life. But yeah, I didn't believe the doctors at all. They sent me home, and I tried to go to sleep, but my mind, I was just thinking so much about what had happened. And of course, then again, it happened again while I came home, a new panic attack. And just as strong, I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was choked. There was this extreme pain in my chest, in my arm. Um, my stomach became so hard. It was like all of my muscles was tightening. I was dizzy. I was throwing up. I felt cold. I felt warm, cold, warm all the time. Um, and of course this extreme anxiety, like nothing I have ever experienced before. I didn't know anxiety could be that strong. Anxiety can be so strong that you're actually thinking you're gonna die. And it doesn't only feel like you're gonna die, but you actually do believe that you're gonna die. And that's been the worst part for me, to try to control my thoughts, because my thoughts just um, were spinning and spinning in my head, and that of course made the whole panic attack even worse. And my entire body was shaking. I'm not even kidding. Like every muscle in my body was shaking. People thought that I was epileptic or something. Yeah, and because I was shaking so badly, and that I didn't hear what people around me said because I was so focused on what was going on inside of my body, and I was so scared. It was like I wasn't even myself. I wasn't even in my own body. It felt like I had just disappeared from my body. It was that bad, and it's the worst thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I don't think um, there actually can be a worse feeling than a panic attack, because it's so real to me. It's so real, and it's so, I don't know, your entire body reacts, and it's just awful. awful, awful feeling. And yeah. Well, anyways, I was rushed to the hospital again, and they gave me. I don't quite remember what happened that day when I was rushed to the hospital. I don't know. Um, they told me it was a panic attack, and while I was in the hospital, I had a friend of mine and my mother, because I had called them and said, you know what, I think I'm having a heart attack. I'm being rushed to the hospital right now because I have a heart attack. And of course they freaked out, and I freaked out even more. So while I was in the hospital, I got another panic attack already in my panic attack, I guess you can say. So I was screaming from the top of my lungs. I believe that every person in the hospital heard me. I was shaking, I was kicking my legs, I was, spinning from side to side. I was crying, and I couldn't breathe because I was so scared. I could not breathe. So I was handed a bag and I had to breathe in a bag, and yeah, I was given anti-anxiety pills, and I was sent home again. I mean, no information, no treatment, no nothing. They just said it's a panic attack. I didn't even know what the hell a panic attack was. So from that day when I went home again, I didn't feel safe anymore. I did not feel safe in my own home. I didn't feel safe anywhere. So it was like I was always on guard. I was always ready to run away if another panic attack was gonna come. So especially at night, I did not dare to fall asleep because I was so scared that I would be waken up by a panic attack. I had to tell myself to breathe in, to breathe out all the time because I didn't trust my body. I didn't trust my body to do its job. So yeah, and I could not sleep on my stomach in bed. I could not sleep because then I could hear my heart pound, and only the sound of my heart pounding was freaking me out and giving me another panic attack. um, so I just didn't feel safe anywhere. It was like my freedom was taken away from me. Going to the store, taking the bus, everything became a challenge. And the depression, I mean, the sense of just being helpless with no information, no people to, follow me up, nothing. I was just left with all of my anxiety, and people assumed that as long as they told me it was just an anxiety, I would believe them, and it was that easy. But no, because first of all, I wasn't convinced it was an anxiety. That's the first thing. I was convinced it was something deadly, that I was really, really ill. Excuse me. So I did not go out anymore because every time I did go out, I became anxious and I had a panic attack. So I did not dare to, not even checking my mail. Even that was harsh for me. Go to my mailbox and check my mail. And the depression, I was always in bed. I was always scared. My freedom was taken away from me. I had no life anymore, and I just seriously wanted to end it all. I just wanted to kill myself. Because there was no help. No one could tell me what was going on in my body. Nobody could tell me anything. Except the only help I got was given some medications, and that was it. So after a while, it became really, really bad. I sometimes, when I had a panic attack, usually at night, I got to the doctor and explained everything, and he locked me up in a mental hospital. Because obviously I was so scared, I didn't hear what the doctor said. It was like I was lost in my own world. So I appeared very lost, I think. So yeah, he sent me to a mental hospital because he didn't believe it was panic attack. He believed it was panic attack, but he think I suffered from something else. But of course I didn't. It was just that I was so scared that I'd never been in my entire life. And the doctor said that they hadn't seen such strong panic attacks in years. And yeah, I felt really hopeless and helpless, very small. And to this whole new life that I had, I did not know how to cope with my anxiety. So I got locked up in a mental hospital 3 times. And then I just started to think to myself that I can't go out and in of this institution for the rest of my life. I have to do something. And since the doctors are not going to help me, no one around understands it. People won't ask me, don't freak out. You know why you're freaking out? Nothing's wrong. But that just made me angry. Because I felt like nobody could really understand what I was going through during these panic attacks. Every single time it felt like I was close to death. And yeah, it was just an awful time of my life. Really, really awful. But yeah, I can't even say how awful, how frightening, how scary, how terrifying. I was just paralyzed by anxiety. I've never felt that small in my entire life, and I don't think I ever will feel that small again. So yeah, anyway, I got off from the mental hospital for a 3rd time, and then I decided to do something. I had to do something. And I started to read about anxiety and different kinds of anxieties. And of course I searched panic attacks, and I googled panic attacks, and there was this site called Panic Away. And well, even before that, I had googled a panic disorder, and I read about what was happening in my body, why my body was reacting, why I started to have pain in my chest, why I felt dizzy. And even though I knew what was going on, still when it actually happened, I couldn't remember it. It was like everything, I've forgotten about everything, and the only thing I was thinking was, I need help, and I need help really fast, or else I'm going to die. So even with information, nothing was helping me. Seriously, nothing. So I did my own research, and like I said, I came to this Panic Away site, and I read a bit on the site, and I felt like, okay, they understand in a way that nobody else does. They actually know the feeling of being scared, and that helped me a lot. And then I read about the program, the 21 seconds method and everything, and I decided I'm gonna try this. I don't have anything to lose. My panic attacks were that strong that they couldn't have gotten any stronger, so I had nothing to lose. So I decided, yeah, I'm gonna try this. And the first thing they taught me that nobody else has ever told me was that when you feel the panic attack, just let it happen. Just observe it from the outside and in. just let it happen. Okay, now I'm feeling pain in my chest. I'm feeling dizzy. That's normal, you know. Just to let it happen and observe it, analyze it, and just try your best to relax. And I know that's very easy to say, and I didn't, I couldn't do it at first, but with a lot of exercise and from each panic attack and each panic attack, it became easier to just relax during these attacks. And some days were pretty awful. I mean, when I couldn't cope with the panic attack and I freaked out, I felt disappointed in myself and all of this shame. But when I did cope, I felt like this is actually working. And sometimes I just felt a rush of anxiety, and I decided, okay, just sit down, don't think, don't do anything, just feel it. And within seconds, I'm not even kidding, within seconds, the anxiety was gone. So I was sitting there preparing myself for a lot of anxiety, and nothing happened. It didn't come a bit. So at that point, I think I started to realize that with a lot of anxiety and a lot of time, I think this could actually work. And it did. It really did. And I sit here today not having a panic attacks anymore. I think it's been a month or something since I had a panic attack. And those small panic attacks that I do get is on a level that I can live with it. Because the panic attacks I had early on was so strong that I couldn't cope with it. But the panic attacks I now get, they last like 3 or 4 seconds. It's mostly my heart just running really fast for like 3 seconds, and I stop a bit and I go, oh yeah, it's just a panic attack, relax. And I start to relax and it goes away. But the most important thing is how to control your thoughts during a panic attack, because it's all in your mind, really. If you learn how to control your thoughts during a panic attack, you can control the anxiety. That's how I see it. You know, when your thoughts are starting to become crazy, like, am I having a heart attack? What's wrong with me? Am I dying? What could this be? How will I reach help in time? You know, all of those thoughts, just block them out. And instead of having those thoughts, observe the anxiety. And what has helped for me is that I start to think about something very specific. I count, let's say, white things in my room. I think about something I have to do tomorrow. And I don't think that's ignoring the anxiety. I just think it's a way of feeling that you're getting control of your thoughts in a way. I don't know if that even makes sense, but that has helped me a lot. And kind of having this outside in look, you know, kind of just letting it happen. I don't know how to explain it. It takes a lot of work. And it takes a whole lot of courage. You have to be braver than you've ever been in your life. But if you give it your all, and if you give it some time, and don't expect to feel better like that, like in a day or two, because you're not. Give it a time, and I'm not saying I'm panic free, but I can handle my attacks really, really good. And things I used to be scared of, like leaving the house, no problem at all. So I feel like my freedom has been given back to me, and I wonder how my life would have turned out if I didn't find the panic away site. Probably I would still be going in and out of institutions, or just lying in my bed every single day being scared. And yeah, you know, a panic disorder, if you don't get help, I believe it can actually kill you. Um, in a way that you feel so desperate, you feel so lost, and you feel so alone that you actually decide to end it all by yourself. If you know what I mean. Yeah. Um, yeah, so it's really good to be free again. And what I've noticed is that before I had a panic disorder, I didn't really know how lucky I was. But now that I know what it's like to be so scared that you can't even stand up on your legs, I feel like just the smallest things makes put a smiles on my face. Mm, just walking outside and just feeling the air. That's all it takes, and I feel happy. I've become a very, very happy and a very grateful person, and um, I really want to help other people with the panic disorder who feel stuck, just the way I did. Um, and if my story can help others, then I'm gonna tell it to everybody. And yeah, I really don't know what else to say. Um, it changes. A panic disorder changes you on a personal level, I believe, because you see what really matters in life and what's really important, and just being around friends, laughing, talking, it gives me so much. And I don't think I would have had this feeling about freedom if I didn't have a panic disorder. So I guess in a way you can say it was my life savior to have a panic disorder. And yeah, um, yeah, I think that's it. Um, yeah.